Paddy Pimblett ultimately gets the win via split decision over Jared Gordon. Your thoughts on the fight and on the judge's decision to let loose here, Dom. Tell the
Yeah.
people what's in your brain, every emotion. Let
Yeah.
it loose.
Yeah, no. Also, guys, this wasn't even a split decision. This was a unanimous across the board. Paddy Pimblett won this fight on all three judges' scorecards. That's problem number one. That not even one judge gave this fight to Jared Gordon. There's big red flag number one right there. Number two, first off, there were no big moments by anyone in this fight by any means. And what's the number one judging criteria? Damage, right? So if you really go through and you look at damage, to be truthful, in terms of damaging blows, most of them happened in round number one. And most of them, in my opinion, were in Jared Gordon's favor. So I scored round one, Jared Gordon. Round two, much of the same. It was on the feet. The first two rounds, I'll say this I'm trying to go back and forth between how I scored and just going minute by minute of the fight as well. I was surprised that Gordon was willing to stand as much as he was against Paddy, but as the fight played out, you kind of saw that he wasn't really ever behind in the striking to Paddy. So why not stand and take your chances, especially since Paddy seemed to show pretty good takedown defense? Jared might as well stand and keep landing the big shots. Round two was the closest round of the fight. I think it's pretty easy to say round two was the closest. That was the one I remember looking at our buddies and thinking, that was a close one. That was a close one, but I still feel like it was in a way similar to round one, and I scored round one for Jared, so I probably have to go Jared round two. So I have Jared 2-0 going into the third and final round. The third round was a snoozer. Nothing happened in the third round. So what happens when there's no strikes or damage? We go to the second knob down, which is what? Control time, right? Octagon control, ground control, clinch control, whatever the case may be, wherever the control happens. Jared Gordon had Paddy in the clinch, back on the fence for about 4 minutes of 5 in round number 3. And during the time when they weren't in the clinch, nothing really happened from either. So in a round where nothing happened, but we continue to go down the pecking order of how the judges score the rounds, Jared should win the third round because of his clinch control time that he held Paddy on the cage. So at the end, it's 3-0 Jared Gordon. I scored the fight 3-0 for Jared Gordon. The only round I could see Paddy getting is round 2, which still means 29-28 Jared Gordon. So I do remember, though, when the fight ended, I thought it was so weird. I said this all in like the same breath. Man, Paddy lost, guys. He just lost to Jared Gordon. But then I was also like, but why do I feel like Paddy's about to win this fight? Or something along those lines is what I said. But I'm like not actually believing that's what's going to happen, but I had to say it in case it did happen, basically. And then Bruce Buffer reads the scorecards, 29-28, unanimous decision. And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, he did. He did fucking lose. Jared won. Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. Wow. I mean, wow. Unbelievable. Noah and I don't like throwing around the word robbery, but this was a robbery. Noah, floor's yours.
Wow. The R word, as we
Yeah.
like to call it.
Yeah.
I've used it maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
Make it a third. I'll one up you, Dom. Double robbery. this is this is a shame, man. This is terrible. What do you see to give Paddy Pimblett 2 rounds? Again, I had it 29-28 for Gordon. So I was one of the people that gave Paddy round 2. But I was messaging some friends from college who were watching the card while it was going on. And I said, boys, because they're all Paddy fans, but they weren't blind to it. They kind
Okay.
of understood, like, whoa, wait a minute. he's not looking dominant here. I said,
Yeah.
boys, this is at best one Gordon right now. And then round 3 happened, and yes, nothing really. Which we're gonna get more into that because I got a bone to pick with our good friend Dana White. I mean, he clearly won this fight. Not an ounce of doubt that he won this fight. But for some reason, all 3 judges saw it the same. They gave Paddy Pimblett 2 rounds, and he walks away to winner. And Dominic, it's been Paddy Pimblett. It seemed like he was a guy that could do no wrong for the longest time. Everybody loved him. He's got the partnership with Barstool. His popularity is growing so rapidly. He's becoming this megastar. And then, the comments that came out of his podcast he did with Dana White, talking about Ariel, his MMA Hour show, and kind of all the receipts that kind of caught Paddy in some lies and all this stuff. So Paddy didn't look too good through that whole thing. And then his post-fight little speech there was kind of cringe. The part where he's talking about Jared Gordon and working with the charities and stuff, that's awesome. Because I know Jared Gordon's a guy that's had a really just tough history. If you take that part out, this whole post-fight interview was so cringe to me. I almost wonder if Paddy prepared this before the fight, thinking that he was going to win this decisively. Because everything he said was how this fight wasn't close. He said, I took the 3rd round off because I knew I was up 2 rounds to none. Dana said he took off round 3. Why are you going Gordon in the post-fight press conference saying he shouldn't have taken off round 3? Hey, Dana, knock, knock, buddy. Did you not hear your boy in the octagon say he lost round 3? And then he's saying the fight wasn't close. He knew he won, all this stuff. And it was the first time. I know I've had my thoughts on Paddy in terms of his potential. I've always liked the guy. I've always wanted to see him succeed. I've always wanted to see him prove me wrong. But I believed he had a ceiling. And that ceiling was at maybe a 10 to 15 ranked fighter. That's at best what I think he can do. A little better after this fight. And also, but I guess my point is that I've always liked the guy. But after this interview, I kind of went, man, I kind of want to see this guy get humbled. Like, I don't root against, like, I tend to be very unbiased in fights, and I'll remain to do so. But I can't help but while the interview was going on and when it was over, I went, man, this guy needs to kind of be knocked down a peg or two. Like, he doesn't realize how he just got handed this win. And, like, he just tried to play it off like he was asking for fight of the night and all this. He showed zero self-awareness here, Dom. Zero. He tried to hit Joe Rogan with the little zinger at the beginning. How much you paying me for this interview?
Yeah.
And nobody laughed. Rogan had any idea what he was talking about. It was just not a great night. Yeah, Paddy gets the win. It was ultimately like Paddy won the battle, just scorecards, but he lost the war a little bit because he's definitely gonna consider he's gonna keep growing. But it's gonna be a bit of now you're gonna see a lot of boos mixed in with the cheers, Dom. It's the same route Conor McGregor had that point. He was at his peak. And then he started to do some stuff that pissed some people off, and there was boos mixed in with the cheers. Paddy's the kind of personality that maybe it was inevitable that he was always going to be kind of a decisive figure. But this week, they're not a universally beloved fighter any longer. He will now be a very controversial fighter. He will be split down the middle. There will be people that are saying Paddy's overrated. He's not that good. And there will be people that are saying Paddy's a future champion. And if you don't think so, then you suck. Whatever. But I can sit here firm today and say I'm doubling down on what I've said about Paddy up to this point. He's good. He's not great. And I'm staying by that. Yes, one fight is not enough to, he still has time to improve, of course, and get better and better. But based off what I saw, he got outstruck. and that's clear. He was out Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon landed the more damaging shots. Give Paddy Pimblett one of these killers in the top 15 and he will lose, and he will lose bad. Good fighter, exciting fighter. He is never going to be a title challenger or a threat to the title.
Yeah, Noah. I think it's first I'll start with the fight week and then go into like what could be next. Yada yada yada. Not a good fight week for Paddy. Not good. It started controversially, but people were just kind of treading water, like people on both sides, whatever. And then this decision happens to be the icing on the cake. And then I really do see that narrative now where there's going to be people tuning in to see Paddy succeed and win. And there's going to be a lot of people tuning in to see Paddy lose. And it's kind of the same situation. We kind of felt this way with Hamzat during his last fight with all that situation. It's like these big stars that the UFC have, but now there's going to be people on both sides of the fence. And it really, from our standpoint, does make it more intriguing to kind of follow the careers now and what's going to happen. Just because we do stay kind of neutral, we can't necessarily pick too many sides when we're trying to bring great content for you guys about this sport. So, in terms of his skill set now, I think it's safe to say that I was a little bit higher on Paddy than Noah, and not saying that I never said he was going to be like a champion or anything, but I was just a little bit higher. We kind of just would go back and forth. Nothing ever too extreme. But now, wow, we're probably as close as we've ever been on Paddy in terms of his potential and skill set, Noah, because I'm looking at the top 15 right now. And I'm telling you, I don't see one person that if Paddy were to get in his next fight, or maybe even next two fights, that he beats. It's in a way not his fault because he's in the most stacked division, right? But if you really do look, he got outstruck by Jared Gordon. No, what's Jared Gordon known for? His wrestling and his grappling. He outstruck and landed the more damaging blows against Paddy on the feet and controlled him in the clinch. And then you look at the rest of this division and the levels and levels and levels. When you go from Grant Dawson at 15, then you look at Jalen Turner at number 10, then you look at Michael Chandler and Rafael Fiziev at number 5 and 6. Like at each peg, every 5 fighters, there's a completely new dynamic, and they're all so unique in their skill sets. I've never been more intrigued to see the matchmaking for Paddy than I am right now. What is the UFC going to do now when it comes to matchmaking? Because this time, while yes, Paddy didn't get some spectacular finish, let us not forget he's faced adversity in those first 3 fights. It didn't come easy in any of those. This one sure the hell didn't come easy, but if you're the UFC, you get to a point where you have no choice but to begin putting them closer and closer to top 15. I am very, very interested to see who he gets matched up with next in this division and throughout the remainder of his push, especially like if he were to win one more and then likely get top 15 after that. No, I'm telling you, we're in the same ballpark now with our feelings towards his future in the company.
Yeah, let me just say that I guarantee his next fight is going to be a step back. Guarantee it. Because the UFC realize they're going to realize how close they came to losing a potential cash cow. Or I don't know if they really would have lost one. I mean, a loss is a loss. They happen in MMA. But in their eyes, how close they came to that blemish, There's not really a name that jumps out to me, but there's not a chance that they're going to give him some, borderline top 15 guy. Like, can you imagine him fighting a Dober? Like, Drew Dober is one of my guys, obviously, so maybe I'm a little biased, but Drew Dober would fucking smash Paddy right now. I'm just being honest. Who knows? Paddy could come back and look. But what I don't think people are accepting is through every fight Paddy's been in, there have been these signs. And Jared Gordon just really highlighted it even more. Like, he got cracked in both of his first two fights. The chin up in the air, no striking defense, it appears. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes next. It's really just a shit win for him, and they robbed him of it. It's plain and simple. He was robbed, and Dominic